Hi everyone, this is Eric Vanderwall, and in this part we're going to talk about Makefiles, or a Makefile, and what it does. And I'm just going to tell you right off the bat what it does so we can, take a little look at it and look into some of the details. But basically a Makefile is able to run command line stuff for you through an alias, so that's what we're going to use it for. So we could just type, say, make build, and it will set up all the command line the way we need it to and run it without us having to type in all that crazy stuff into the command line every single time. Now, if you search Makefile on DuckDuckGo or Google.com, you'll find a lot of tutorials talking about Makefiles in relation to C or C++ and compiling a bunch of files together. Now, that's really not what we're going to use it for. We're essentially just going to use it as a simple way to run a bunch of command lines or terminal commands. So you can see in this basic example, they have say hello and echo and hello world. So why don't we look at how that actually looks like in an actual project. So I'm just going to open up my IntelliJ, so you can open up whatever IDE you want to use. Now, most IDEs, or pretty much all of them, have Makefile support. Even if they don't have Makefile support, it doesn't really matter. You can see here, this is a Makefile that I've added, and when I did add it to IntelliJ, it asked me, would you like to download the Makefile plugin? I said yes, and I did this. But again, you don't actually need any support. It's very simple syntax. Now, to add a Makefile, I'm actually just going to go right-click, new, and then I'm going to add a normal file. And you can only have one Makefile per project, so it's going to be make with a capital M, file with no S, and it's not going to have a type at the end, so it shouldn't be makefile.make or .text or anything like that. It should have nothing at the end. And if your IDE recognizes it, you'll probably have a little image like this. I have an M. Now, I'm going to quickly comment out all of this stuff here just to begin. And this is pretty much what we had in the tutorial. I didn't have an echo or an @ echo, but so what we have is hello, and we need this on a new line with a colon. Then we're going to go to the next line, so you push enter, then tab. So you got to make sure that you tab in. If you don't tab in, this may not work. Then I'm going to go @ echo, and echo is a command here. And we're going to give it a string, so since we already have a hello, I'll just, we'll call this string. Now, what we can do is go to the terminal, your command line, however you're going to do it. And I'm going to type the word make to launch a Makefile, and then put in the alias. So this is string. And as you can see, it echoed back, this is my string. So we could also do hello by typing make hello, and it's going to return that back. So I think Linux out of the box, typically, most of them have Makefile support built in. I'm not sure about Windows or Apple. You might have to go ahead and install it. I'll look for some instructions and throw those into the description for this so you can know how to add it to your system. But every system should support it at this point. But if you're working with Substrate, then you're probably on a Linux or possibly on Mac. Okay, so let's look into them just a little bit deeper. So I'll go ahead and comment these out, and we'll go up here and look at a little more. I'll just copy this. Just want to do them one at a time so you can see sort of what we're building up to. Okay, let's do a run. And if you've been following along so far, you know that we're typing in like cargo run -- bin to set the binary. And then we're using the kitchen node. Then I'm going -- release to do a release version because this doesn't have the debug stuff added, which means it's going to build faster. Then I'm going to go -- to pass it arguments to the actual build. And then I'm going to go -- temp and -- dev. Right? And so this is a lot to do every single time. And now with the Makefile, we can just type make run, and it's going to do this for us. We could also click it here in the IDE, but I'm going to do it in the terminal. We'll go make run, and you can see it displays the command line right in the terminal. And it's thinking, it's giving me a couple warnings, and now it's building. I'm going to cancel the build because we're not going to do that right now. Now, as you saw, I changed out this kitchen node because we can actually declare variables in this, and this is helpful for, you know, later down the road if we want to change the runtime or something like that, then we can just change the name of it up here. And so to declare a variable, you don't have to do it in all capitals, but this is just a standard way of doing it. You know, like my var, and you're going to say space equals space and the name of whatever your variable is. So it could be my variable if that's it. You're not going to use any, there's no closing statements here. There's no quotation marks around anything like a string you might see in other programming languages. It's just each line to declare its own variable. Okay. Then in the actual command line here, we can just erase what we want to replace. And I'm going to go $, open and closing parentheses, the squiggly kind here. I really got to figure out the name of these. Open and closing fancy. Anyway, so then we're going to type runtime because that's the variable that I want. And let's try this again. Let's type make run and make sure it's actually working. Yep. Looks good. Okay, so I can delete this because I've already did all this beforehand. Now you can see at the top here, I have an extra one. And this is declared a little bit differently. And Makefiles actually can do like a whole bunch of different things in the command line. But I won't go over them all because a lot of them just doesn't apply to what we need. But if you want to look it up, of course, it's out there. So go ahead and do that. But if you're going to type dot default underscore goal, and now this is sort of weird to me, but you have a colon equals. Okay, and then now you're going to type in the command that you want to be the default command. So if I type make run, it's going to run the make run command. If I type make remember, it's going to run the remember command, right? But what if I want to define a default so I can just type make? Well, currently if I comment those out, oops. Okay, there's no default set. There we go. And comment this out because I see there's an error there. Okay, so there's no default set commented out. We're going to go to the terminal and we'll just type make. And it ran the make run. It ran pretty fast. So whatever's the first command at the top, the first alias here, such as run, this one's going to be the default, right? But sometimes we don't want this to be the default and we don't have to move all our files around. So we can just set a default like this by saying dot default underscore goal space colon equals space and the name of our default. So I'm going to run this, say, no wasm version because I don't want it to build with wasm because that will make our build slightly faster because we don't need the wasm when we're just testing things out. Okay, so now let's go make, see? And again, it went by pretty fast, but it did run the this no wasm version. Now, I think we only have one thing left here that I haven't discussed. So I have another variable here for debug. Because if we were watching the debug tutorial, you can see here, we're going to scroll down. For example, in this debug version here, I have passed the argument of L, then the actual debug custom message. So mine's like set to custom right now, but that is there. So go back and watch the debug video if you haven't already, and you'll understand why I have L here and the debug. So right, the last thing is here is this dot phony. So I would say go ahead and look it up because I found that sometimes, I think it depends on the operating system, it will work without it and other times it won't, which I find sort of weird. So let's remove this and just try and run it first and see what happens, and then I'll explain. Make no wasm. And yeah, it compiles fine without it. So you might find some systems, and I don't know why, don't compile without it. And what it's doing here is just letting the system know that this first line here is a not an argument, it's a runtime argument. Runtime parameter. I'm not sure what the right term is here. But it actually starts from cargo run, right? So sometimes if you have something before your command, it won't run properly, I found through this makefile. So you might need this dot phony semicolon, or sorry, colon, space. Then you just put the name of the alias here, which is no wasm, and then you write the rest just as you would expect. So if you don't need to do it, then you don't need to do it. So it might depend on maybe on the terminal or the command line you're using or the system. I'm not sure. I had some problems before, so I've added it in. So that is optional. And I think that's it. This just really simplifies your building process, that you can just type make and it will, run everything every time. You don't have to remember to, type everything in. Or if you want to set up a debug version, I can just type make debug and it's going to spin that up for me and add in my custom logging and stuff like that, which will save my lifetime. Okay, so that's it for this little lesson. And again, you can use Makefiles with, other programming language. This is not Substrate specific. It's just a general tip to keep our life moving faster. And I'm going to be using it in the, tutorials moving forward from this point. I just want people to be clear about what I'm doing in case you're thinking like, okay, what's that weird make thing he's typing? Okay, until the next tutorial, I will see you guys later.